Each year, it produces around 400,000 ounces, or more than 11,000 kilograms, of gold. But production is set to dramatically increase with the construction of a new hoist to pull up ore from underground.
Australia is the world's second largest gold producer, but the easy deposits are gone. What remains is deeper, hotter, harder to reach, and even harder to extract. Getting to it requires engineering that would have been impossible even 2 decades ago. That is why $1.8 billion has been set aside for the Tanami expansion, which is one of resources single-handedly pushing Australia GDP. Let's get into it. The Tanami Desert, Northern Territory, is one of the most isolated places in Australia. The nearest major city is Darwin, and it's over 500 kilometers away. There are no highways and summer surface temperatures push past 45 degrees, and beneath all of it lies one of the richest gold deposits on the continent. Newmont has been pulling gold out of this ground since the 1980s. For years, the operation was productive, and they used relatively conventional methods of extraction like tunnels and haul trucks. Then the shallow ore ran out. Geologists traced the deposit downward. It kept going and kept getting richer. They reached a depth that made every previous extraction method completely unworkable. So Newmont made a decision. They were going to go and get it all the way down.
This shaft is designed to produce 3.8 million tonnes a year. At the moment, the mine with its truck haulage system produces 2.7 million tonnes a year, so we're going to gain an extra million tonnes a year.
Tanami currently produces around 400,000 ounces of gold per year, worth roughly $2.2 billion at today's prices. Once the expansion is fully online by 2027, that figure climbs by up to 200,000 additional ounces annually. This expansion is designed to maintain and grow that output through to 2040. This is a multi-decade economic resource for Australia, generating thousands of direct and indirect jobs and hundreds of millions in royalties and tax revenue. Here is the core engineering problem. The mine already existed, but a shaft was needed to lift extract from 1,460 meters underground. Using a truck to haul this material was proving slow and ineffective, so a shaft where ore can be lifted using conveyor belts seemed like a better solution. But first, the engineers had to figure out how to dig a hole this deep without the walls collapsing inward. So, for this to happen, they needed to cut a vertical hole through 1,460 meters of rock that is under enormous pressure, line every centimeter of it so it does not collapse, and then move 28 tons of gold ore up through it dozens of times a day, safely. Nothing about that is straightforward. The shaft is 5.4 meters wide. To cut it, engineers used raised boring, which is a method where a hole is first drilled from the surface all the way to the target depth. Then, a reaming head fitted with tungsten carbide cutters is attached at the bottom and pulled back upward, grinding rock away from the inside out as it rises. And at every meter, the pressure gets worse. At 1,460 meters, rock does not just sit there passively, it squeezes and shifts. It pushes in from every direction. When you remove material from the center, the surrounding rock wants to fill that space. Engineers had to stay ahead of it the entire way down. Their answer was 8,000 rock bolts, 8,000 individual steel anchors drilled into the shaft walls and fitted to resist the inward pressure of the surrounding rock. These were placed by hand, in heat that climbed toward 50 degrees, even during construction, each one holding a small section of wall in place. Then came the concrete. Standard concrete cannot cure properly in that heat because it dries too fast, cracks, and loses its structural strength. So Newmont built a dedicated concrete batching plant on site, producing a custom mix engineered for high temperature curing, and the entire shaft was lined from top to bottom, sealed and reinforced. The goal was to build something that would last the life of the mine. That shaft is now the backbone of the entire operation. Most people picture a mine as a shaft with a bucket, but Tanami is closer to an underground city. Below the surface, there are kilometers of tunnels that consist of drives, crosscuts, ventilation raises, ore passes, pump stations, refuge chambers. There are underground workshops where machinery gets serviced without ever coming to the surface, rooms where workers eat lunch a kilometer below the ground, and the roads are wide enough for full-size vehicles, lit with fluorescent lighting, monitored by sensors measuring air quality, temperature, and ground movement in real time. And it is brutally hot. The deeper you go, the more heat the surrounding rock radiates. At the ore extraction levels, the ambient temperature without cooling would be fatal to work in. Massive refrigeration systems push chilled air down into the working zones. Workers rotate on strict time limits to prevent heat stress. Every person underground is tracked. If someone stops moving, action is taken immediately. The danger is real. In February 2026, a 47-year-old worker died at the Tanami site following a winch failure during a lifting operation. It was the first reported mining fatality in Australia for 2026. NT Police established a crime scene, NT WorkSafe launched an investigation, and all activities on site were suspended immediately. So, as you can see, every engineering decision made here exists because the alternative is a phone call to someone's family, which is exactly why the shaft matters, not just economically, but operationally.
The existing truck haulage system, trucks take about a 3-hour return trip to drive underground, pick up a load of rock and come back. This shaft system behind me, you'll see it can hoist the equivalent amount of rock in the space of about 2.5 minutes.
Before the shaft was built, ore from the bottom was loaded into haul trucks underground and driven up a long, winding underground road that climbs from the ore body back to the surface. At 1,460 meters deep, that journey took 180 minutes. One way. A truck carrying ore, burning diesel underground, grinding up 3 kilometers of spiral road for 3 hours before it could tip its load and go back down again. The ventilation systems required to manage diesel exhaust at that volume and depth were enormous. The fuel costs were high, and the wear on equipment was constant. And it got worse with every additional meter of depth. The shaft kills that problem entirely, or loads into a conveyance at the bottom. A friction winder on the surface, which is a massive drum spinning a steel cable, hauls it upward at 60 kilometers per hour. As recorded, it can carry 28 tons of rock to 1,460 meters in 2.5 minutes. So there's less diesel needed underground, reduced ventilation requirements, faster cycle times, lower cost per ton, and the ability to scale output in a way the underground road never could. The economics of the mine changed completely. That is why the expansion cost $1.8 billion and why Newmont committed to it anyway. There's another similar mining site at Kalgoorlie, which is about 2,000 kilometers south, in Western Australia, where another great gold operation takes a completely different approach to the same problem. The Kalgoorlie Super Pit does not go deep. It goes wide. It's 3.5 kilometers long and 1.5 kilometers wide and over 600 meters deep. It moves 200,000 tons of rock every single day, and it is large enough to be visible from space. In 2025, it generated over $6.4 billion in revenue. But the Super Pit has a problem that no amount of scale can make simple. Beneath the open pit, there are 3,500 kilometers of abandoned underground tunnels, and directly below, a fleet of haul trucks that each weigh hundreds of tons, loaded. Engineers call it the honeycomb effect. The ground looks solid from above. Underneath, it is filled with voids. Laser scanners continuously map those voids and feed the data into live 3D models. So the team always knows where the dangerous ground is before they send equipment over it. The walls are a separate problem entirely. At 600 meters deep, the pit walls are constantly under stress. In 2018, a major slope failure sent millions of tons of rock cascading into the pit floor, shutting down operations for months. Since then, slope stability radar runs every hour of every day, detecting millimeter-level shifts that precede a collapse. In high-risk areas, autonomous haul trucks and remote-controlled excavators replace human operators entirely. The Super Pit is planned to remain operational until at least 2034 and potentially until 2050. Both operations exist in environments that push back hard. At Tanami, the desert is brutal. Newmont's expansion includes large-scale solar arrays to cut diesel consumption and carbon output, and closed-loop water recycling to protect the region's scarce water. At a site this remote, water and electricity are critical infrastructure, and reducing dependency on both is an operational necessity as much as an environmental one. At Kalgoorlie, noise barriers and dust suppression systems manage the mine's impact on the 30,000 people living directly next to it. You cannot run one of the world's largest open-cut mines beside a functioning town without protecting the people from its effects. And then there is the workforce. There are 1,800 workers at Tanami and thousands more at Kalgoorlie. These are people doing the hardest industrial work in the country, in places most Australians will never see, pulling out a resource that is a significant slice of the national economy. These are two mines. Between them, they tell you everything about where Australian gold mining stands right now. The easy ore is gone. The deposits that remain are deeper, harder, hotter, and more technically demanding than anything the industry dealt with 20 years ago. Getting to them requires billion-dollar commitments, engineering that did not exist a generation ago, and workforces willing to operate in conditions most people will never experience firsthand. The Tanami expansion is a guarantee that this mine keeps running, keeps producing, and keeps feeding an economy that depends on it more than most people realize. Kalgoorlie has been producing since 1893. It has outlasted companies, governments, and entire economic cycles, and it is still going. And by current projections, it will still be going when most of the people watching this video are collecting a pension. Australia does not run on luck. It runs on people willing to go further, dig deeper, and engineer their way through problems that would discourage most industries. If you made it this far, you already know you're not like most viewers. Subscribe because we cover the engineering and infrastructure stories that actually matter. And if you want to see Australia's $11 billion expansion of the Western Sydney Airport, that video is right there.